I'm sure you've heard someone say before that God said, do not be afraid, many times in the Bible. Some people say it's 365, one for every day of the year. It's actually closer to 103, but you get the point. God didn't say, cower in the corner, you're on your own. No, he didn't do it. He said, do not be afraid, for I am with you. Today I have a question for you. What are you most scared of? This could be many different things. I'll talk about things that I was once scared of. Things like, you're not enough. Now, where do we get the fear of you're not enough? Where does that come from? Where could that possibly come from? Well, maybe let's go to age 4, 5, 6, and we're at school, sat in class, sat there all proud, getting ready. We get a spelling test. Now, I had something similar to dyslexia as a child. Simply put, I struggled with English. So you can guess I probably didn't ace that test. I was probably somewhere in the mid-range straight away. Well, this person's top of the class. What does that mean? I'm going to compare myself to them. You're not enough. It's almost like we are conditioned all through our educational system, not on who we are, not on our identity. It's all about who gets the best grade. And if you don't get the best grade, what category did James fall into? You're not enough. Maybe you'll never be enough. And unfortunately, at school, many of us don't find out. It's a shame, but school doesn't really teach us our true identity. School teaches us how to sit at a desk, do what we're told, and try and pass a test. Now, from my experience, life is a little bit more about failing and learning and going out, putting yourself out there and trying, rather than trying to fit in with the crowd and pass that test. So then, how do we overcome our fear? Well, first you've got to understand what you're afraid of. How do you do that? It's super simple. I learned all this from Jamie Winship. Highly recommend his book. What's his book called again? Living Fearless. I'm pretty sure it's Living Fearless. And it simply is truth-telling confession, if you want to call it that. All it means is, and I'll tell you this, God knows you better than you know yourself anyway. All you have to do is tell the truth. Now, I don't know about you, but for 28 years of my life, I thought I was always living in the truth, except I wasn't. I'd tell myself, oh, everything's going to get better, or, I would constantly be lying to myself about different things. And it's a case of you deep down, you know the truth, but sometimes you'll think, oh man, things will get better, and you're not trying to change it. So if you want to change or overcome fear, first you've got to tell yourself or speak it out to God, speak it out to the universe, whatever you want to do. You have to say, I am afraid of fill in the blank. Could be multiple things, common fears, could be fear of dying, it could be a fear of I'm not enough, it could be a fear of what other people think of me. You fill in the blank of that fear. And many of us have deep fears. Like, I have worked with different people, lots of different people in my coaching, and people that are like put on that masculine front. And these guys, you wouldn't want to mess with them. And at the same time, I've had them in calls broken down over different things. And it all stems from fear. But sometimes it's good to face that fear and just completely be honest with it. And you'll be thinking, okay, why? Why do you have to speak it out? Well, once you reveal the truth, you'll find that the fear isn't true. Let me explain. Any fear that you believe it's not from God. Well, how do I know this? God never tells us, be afraid. Not once. God says, do not be afraid. So that tells you straight away, if you are afraid, it's not from God. Who could it be from, James? Who could it be from? The enemy. It could be from yourself. It could be from opinions of other people. It could be from the empire. It could be from the world. Now, let me tell you this. When you walk with God and you know exactly who you are and your own identity, you'll have such peace you won't be afraid of anything. You'll be able to do anything. You'll have that level of belief. How do we get there? The first step, I've just mentioned, truth telling. That simply means telling the truth of how you feel. Talk out loud your fears. It can be so difficult. We've all done this. We've held on to that burden of a lie. It could be a lie within a relationship. It could just be a lie to yourself. How good is it when you just speak the truth and you just release yourself from that burden you've been carrying? What does the Bible say about the truth? The truth will set you free, simply. And it's, no matter what you believe, it's always good to completely be honest and tell the truth in all situations, whether that's to do with relationships, to do with yourself, to do with work, to do with anything. Because once you know the truth about all the situations, you can make the right judgments. If you're living a lie and you're living everything based off, oh, I'm not enough, what if this happens if I make this choice? That will control you. And what people don't realise about fear, I'll tell you this, you have to be careful who you worship or what you worship, right? If you're constantly living in fear, you're living in fear, right? Living in fear. What I mean is, you're worshipping fear. Because that fear is greater than in the way you're viewing the world or the way that you're viewing your situation or living. You're worshipping fear because you're focused on fear all the time. Coming back to what God said, God says, do not be afraid, for I am with you. Now, if we lived from that perspective, it's like, well, there's nothing to fear. But let's break it down a little bit more. God will never tell you anything to do with being afraid. And you'll be surprised what God does say about you. So how can we go about this process? It has everything to do with, I've learnt this from Jamie Winship, and it has everything to do with a simple prayer process. Now, it starts off with confession. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to break down a step-by-step process and a prayer with that. And what it does, it will basically highlight any lies that you've been told. It could be to yourself, it could be from the enemy, it could be from the world. And from there, you're going to go through a different process of actually thinking and speaking to God. So God will tell you who you are, right? You can also use scriptures and different things. So I'm going to break that down now. Step 1 of the prayer. Confess the lies you've believed, right? Could be like this. Father, I come before you in truth. I want to see myself as you see me. But I confess that I have believed lies about who I am. I have lived under the weight of fill in the blank, fear, shame, unworthiness, rejection, failure. Name whatever's come into your mind. I have allowed these false identities to shape my thoughts, my choices and my relationships. Today I lay them at your feet. Give them to God. Next step, number 2. Ask God what he says about you. Lord, I don't want to live in these lies anymore. I want to know what you say about me. You can talk to God. Who do you say I am? Speak to me, God. Show me the truth of my identity. Reveal to me the name you have called me since before I was born. Step 3. Listen and receive his truth. This could be sitting in silence for a few moments, allowing God to speak to your heart. If you feel a word, you might get an image, you might get a piece of scripture, you might get a sense of peace. What I would do, I'd journal it and write it down. Also, this is a process, right? The first time you do it, you might not get much. But if you want a relationship with God, you're only going to do that. God's always there with you, but you're only going to have a relationship if you turn to God and you put your trust there. You can have a relationship, it's always open for that connection, but many of us just turn to God when life's not going our way. Oh God, I hope this solve my problems now. You haven't spoken to him for like a month. Oh, but I'm struggling, solve my problems now. It's all about that relationship. That's from my own experience and my own journey. It's a process. Like, it takes time, it takes patience, it takes practice. But I honestly can say, you will hear from God in your own way. Now, on to step 4. So, declare and walk then in your true identity. So, then you can say something like, Father, I receive your truth. Once you get that, I reject the lies and I choose to walk in the name and identity you have given me. Strengthen me to live from this truth daily. no longer seeking approval from the world, but standing firm in who you created me to be. Thank you for making me with purpose, love, and power. I trust you and I will follow where you lead me. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, a simple thing that's transformed for me is, from doing this, I do this most days to be honest, but I used to think I wasn't enough. And I used to care so much about what other people could potentially put on me or think of me. And it was crazy. Straight away I'd get things come back like, you've always been enough. In terms of my identity, God tells you exactly who you are. And once you can live from that identity, you'll have such peace. Because it doesn't matter then if the whole world is against you, if God's with you. And I know, like, if you've never, say, prayed before, if you've never looked into any of this, I didn't for 28 years. But for 28 years, I also lived with social anxiety. I suffered in different ways. I was lost. I was lonely. I didn't know the truth. Now I do. Now I'm openly being honest and I am sharing this with you. Why? What's part of my identity? My identity is to serve other people and support them in overcoming their fears, to support you in overcoming your fears and living from your true identity. Why? Because when you live from your true identity, if we all did that, if every child of God, if every single one of us did that, the world would be a much more peaceful place. So on that note, have a great day. Always remember to walk in faith and stay blessed.